Hey guys, Steve again. To all the haters from Angelina County, hello. God bless you. God bless you. Hey, just found out some information. Still doing an investigation on Mr. Glenn Smallwood's death in Angelina County Jail. Reason why I pushed it this far is because the fact is that they refused to release the video of the incident. Interviews with the inmates that were involved, conducted by myself, and uh, information received from them through the mail. Um, Once again, when you're in jail, you don't like to talk on the phone because the district attorney is listening, and they will use that information to incriminate you or something along those lines or whatever. So, um, writing is basically the preferred method of communication. Um, so, I'm going to read the federal laws on reporting of a death in custody. There is a DACA law, which the jail is required to produce to the government. But along with this goes other guidelines that we fail to look up or fail to investigate. Now, in keeping with this, it really irks me because the fact is that Sheriff Selman actually stated that he wouldn't release a video because it may lead to further investigations by the people or by the media. You're damn right. Because how can we condone you investigating yourself? How can James Hicks's report from the DPS, how could it not go by the guidelines set down by federal government? These items I'll read to you, and I'm going to continue to post them on my page. And hopefully people will actually read and say, you know what? Something's going on here. And now that is the question, because the fact is that we know something's going on, and the only evidence to actually prove what Sheriff Selman has said is on that video. So I'm going to go through some from some laws here that I've got it right over here. Okay, go through some laws here that were ignored. Proper procedure was not followed, and it's very, very obvious now that they were investigating themselves. Which, when you have a death in a jail, a serious incident as this, then there are proper procedures stated by the federal government that you have to follow because the federal government keeps a track of it. Now, I have always been a proponent, letting Angelina County know that just because our county says something doesn't make it so. This is when you need to do some research. For God's sakes, we got Google. You can just look it up and see what they're telling you, if it's actually true or if it follows the law. For too long, we just take their word for it. We trust them. Okay, whatever. But now we're starting to find out that, hey, what they say and what actually happens is not the same thing. I do this in light of the fact is that being an involved citizen, and we should all be involved to actually oversight our commissioners, our sheriff's department, our police departments, everything. Right now, we see accountability put out by many, many, many Texas law enforcement. And the reason why they have to produce this video, because that's going to be part of the lawsuit. And I'll read you these laws right now. I'm sorry if I'm going to skip around. I have pasted this in the detail section below, so you can personally read it. I've actually posted it to Angelina County Facebook Live, or Angelina County. No, my Facebook, Steve. Do both. And if you don't have it, don't worry about it, because there's not a lot of people that are actually on it, except for friends that I've created. Because nobody in Angelina County likes to talk about nothing. That's why we get away with shit. Nobody, we're like the three blind mice. We hear no evil, see no evil, shut our mouth. I just made that up. Anyway, so here, let's go with some of the highlights, and please read the entire report that I posted or whatever. Okay, let me get here. I had some of this highlighted. Okay, background. Okay, criminal investigations of in custody deaths generally should be conducted by an investigative team that is trained in criminal investigation and operates outside of the detaining agency or the ordinary chain of command. This structure will help avoid conflicts of interest and promote the reality and appearance of impartiality. The investigative teams are typically comprised of officers from traditional investigative units, including internal affairs, homicide, special investigation units, and also force investigation. So, in other words, um, we had the Texas Rangers came in. Now, a note to self, because James Hicks, he's a DPS officer. I believe he's out of Company A. Anyway, he has been known and has been accused in the past of working with the DAs to fabricate evidence, to prepare a report that would entice or maybe stretch it a little bit of what the actual issues are, what they come up with. So he leaves out details and then he puts in details. First detail that we want to go through is that if there's a death in custody, all witnesses, that includes all of the personnel that were involved, all the witnesses, the trustees, the medical personnel, everybody that was involved there, and plus a statement by the supervising individual, who was Lieutenant Rodriguez. Yeah, Rodriguez. However, this was not done. And as you see in this video, or as you see in the video, and also on this this post that I just posted. Sorry, I can't talk today. Following the death of may involve a law enforcement correctional personnel, the first officers on the scene should render medical aid as circumstances, allowed to be degree responsible, reasonably responsible, pending the arrival of trained medical personnel. The safety and well-being of those involved, whether it be the individual suffering from the injury or illness, the officers or innocent bystanders, should be first priority. The primary responsibility of every law enforcement officer is to preserve life. That's it. Now, I don't think that people understand that if you are arrested for a crime, or you are arrested and you are accused of a crime, and you are placed in county jail, that doesn't equal a death sentence. It does not mean that you go in there with the possibility of getting jacked up and being killed. And if you are killed, then the public has a right to know the actions that you have taken, because the fact is that we're taxpayers and we need to know where money is going. And does more money go into training? Does more money need to be spent on restraint devices? What can the taxpayers do to actually help this from happening again? Okay, so securing the scene. Okay, if the officers have established that an individual is deceased and the subject is not at the scene, securing the incident scene becomes the most important responsibility of responding officers. Officers should cordon off the area. This can be accomplished through the use of crime scene tape, rope, vehicles, or barricades, or simply locking the door and stationing on the officer at the entrance. In addition, the immediate scene, officers should consider the additional areas that need to be secured, such as approach and escape routes. Okay, so that's murder in the jail. When there is an incident, cops come in, they tape it off. That means it's secure until the investigators get there and actually they're looking at a scene that's untouched by outside individuals, as far as walking, as far as any access they have or whatever. In other words, that scene is exactly the way that it's exactly how it was when the death occurred. And Officers should make record of everyone who is present at the scene and identify potential witnesses. To the degree responsibly possible and appropriate, the first officers on the scene, as opposed to the investigative team, should focus on a few key matters and rely on assisting officers to handle other duties. Okay, so that's just saying, okay, if a witness wishes witnesses to leave, the officer should obtain contact information for further communication, blah, 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 blah. Okay. In extent possible, the officer should conduct brief witnesses interviews at the scene, particularly of law enforcement or prison personnel, in an effort to provide investigators with a starting point. This issue is addressed in greater detail below. Such interviews should also be sensitive and psychological and emotional and physical well-being of the interviewees. So in other words, everybody was involved. If you saw it, you were there, in and around there, it should be interviewed. None of these witnesses were deposed. None of these witnesses or none of the jail personnel who was actually there and actually were involved in this were interviewed. None of the trustees were interviewed. You can't really get, all we have is a statement by a sheriff who wasn't even there. So you would think that he would want to talk to everybody involved, but that didn't happen. Do you see where the DPS report starts going sideways here? Can you see that, you know what, they're leaving out details, they're leaving out steps in this? And, okay, officers should have notice supervisors or whatever. You got to notify everybody. I mean, the criminal investigator should report the incident scene as promptly as possible. Upon the arrival, the criminal investigation team should obtain a detailed briefing about the incident and ensuing events from the detainees' agencies, responding officers. The criminal investigation should then begin their independent documentation and evaluation of the scene. Depending on the timing of the arriving investigative officers, an appropriate supervising officer, or an incident commander, after arrival, they assume responsibility for the scene and where they can continue their investigation. Keep in mind, people who saw this were not interviewed. I can't blow this Texas Ranger report out of the water. It's just investigating ourselves. So in other words, we're talking to an individual who wasn't even there. He's the one making the statement. He's the one who's deposed. But like I said, he wasn't even there. Where did he get the story? Who did he get the story from? We don't know because we didn't interview the individuals who were involved. Can you start saying cover up? Because I'm going to start saying that word right now. Something happened in that jail. We as a public need to know about it. As every other county in Texas is starting to do right now. Why? Here's the reason why. Because when this tape becomes available, which it will, either it's going to be in federal hands or it's going to be in state hands. But we deserve to look. We need to hear from these people who are actually there and see what they said. And this video is going to be a part of that evidence. They have went. 3 agencies that I have written to have gone off what Selman says and says, we're not going to release. He doesn't want to release a video, whatever. I don't care. Federal law says you have to. Federal law says that. So guess what we've just done? We've done moved now my investigation from the county, from the state. I'm going federal with it. That's going to be FBI. FBI first, which our FBI here is just pretty much non-existent. But the fact is that we're going straight to the Attorney General of the United States, so his staff can look at it. And then when it comes from the Attorney General, the Attorney General of the United States, he outranks the freaking Texas. He outranks Texas, and there's going to be a fight because of that. Because the fact is, the Attorney General of the United States can sue county attorney. They can sue every individual who has refused to release the tape. These people who refuse to release the tape will be, if not individually, but the actual county will be sued by federal government. All for them not doing what they're supposed to do. Investigators should likewise photograph any involved individuals where possible, as to document their contemporaneous, I can't remember that way, appearance of injuries, if any. These thoughts and videos should be recorded as soon as possible and within 2 hours of the incident's detection. No, none of these were documented. The only thing that was documented that he had a bruise or he had a cut on his head, per the coroner's report. There was no reason. There was nothing mentioned of how he got that. But here's the deal: is because the fact is that there was an individual who was in custody, he had him in custody, that when asked said, "Oh, he fell and bumped his head on something." That should have been on record. That should have been on record for the investigation, and it wasn't. And if it was there on record, and the investigator did not pick up on it and ask for it, then the investigation is null. It's mute. Then you would establish probable location, injury, or illness. In this case, or whatever, Mr. Smallwood was having a psychotic episode, whether it be drug induced, whether whatever the case may be. However, the fact is that we do know that Mr. Smallwood was attending or was a patient at the Burke Center at the time when he was up and left, and then he made his way to the hospital by himself. Somehow he got there, but anyway, he got there, and they were starting detox procedures on him. And then, hell, he just got up and left again. Where was he going? He was going back to the mental. He was going back to the mental institute or the Burke Center. He was making his way back over there. If you have a chance, look at the map and see where the Burke Center actually is, and then look and see where he was arrested. It's not very far. But the arrest is not really what I'm concerned about, except for the fact is this. There's a lawsuit who's actually coming. There's a lawsuit who's actually being prepared right now. And it is a law that if you have a body camera on you, which is required by law to have a body camera on there, it has to be working. How does that do? Well, when you leave, test it. But Lufkin Police Department, they had 2 officers responding, but they only had 1 video. Collectively, what I'm saying is this, is that you have to follow the laws. You can't just make shit up. And you cannot just fly by the seat of your pants. Investigators should document any blood and bodily fluid evidence, including volume patterns, spatters, and other characteristics. Investigators should ensure that the diagram includes labels is sufficiently detailed. They cleaned up the blood before the investigation. Trustees will testify today that they were responsible and they were ordered to clean up blood out of that cell. That blood should have been tested. That blood should have been reviewed. It should have been photographed on how, so the investigator can not get witnesses' statements. He can make his own investigation of what happened with statements, with photos, with videos, all these things. So anything used in an investigation has to be public information, which includes the video. I have to go off on the side note here. It's like, you know what? If somebody wants to see, if it's on the up and up and there's not anything shaky going on, then yes, by all means, transparency. You would actually want your individuals to be. You'd want these videos to get out to show how your officers reasonably act to these type of situations. What is this used for? Well, it's not just for public. What it's used for is actually a training tool. It's actually a training tool for your fellow officers on what not to do and what to do and what should have happened. We call it an AA report after an incident, a key incident. This is what was happening with the DPS, an after action report. Does the story align with the video? Does the story and the witnesses and all 3 of those align with each other? Well, we don't know. We got one piece of the puzzle missing because they won't release the video. And I'm asking to you, why? it bothers me to no end that they're not being transparent. So my question is this: is that what are you trying to hide? Are you trying to avoid a lawsuit? In the report from Sheriff Selman, he stated that he expects civil proceedings. Maybe you're going to get the civil, but maybe you don't want no other. Maybe you don't want other lawsuits coming by, because the fact is that the general public now know that you're actually skirting the laws there a little bit, and basically just doing what the hell you want to do. You make shit up, which I have also proven. The fact is that by the standard operating procedures, there's more than one instance where they always it's hey on the job training, which would encompass when you're restraining individuals. They don't follow any guidelines. And as we know, with the experience of individuals who have died in custody, we are seeing that this has been the ultimate factor or the bottom line to why these people are dying, because they're not following proper procedures. Now, one may say, especially in Angelina County, well, you know what? He's in jail. He should be there for a reason. Whoop his ass. Okay, but that's not what the law says. What the law says is this: everybody is innocent until proven guilty. So if you're innocent until proven guilty, guess what? It don't mean you get an ass kicking. If you need to be restrained, okay, restrain him in the proper way. If he needs to be locked down, lock him down in a certain way. Witnesses have said that he was banging on the door and asking for help. He was asking for help. They got, just speculation here, they got perturbed because he was beating on the cell, and so they're going to put him in restraints to shut him up. Ignored the fact that he was asking for help. As soon as he asked for help, there should have been medical personnel right there to analyze him, understand the situation, and actually take his vital signs, see what the problem was. How could she help? He, she, whoever could help alleviate his discomfort. And I say that, people are like, oh, well, you're supposed to be uncomfortable in jail. So we got it there for, whatever. Your county jail. You are there to hold people until they go to trial. I think we forgot that part. Safeguard evidence. Now, it's going to come up whenever the federal government, when all these federal agencies start looking into this, they're going to ask for the video. I'll almost guarantee you, Angelina County will say, oh, we don't have the video anymore. We don't have the video anymore. Investigators should properly collect, label, secure, and document all items of potential evidentiary value, including personal items, clothing, and any weapon. Investigators should likely ensure the effective preservation, packaging, and transport of this evidence to secure storage and the other chain of custody. We don't know where we don't even know where shit went. What they do with it? Did they hand it back to the family? I don't know. And to add a caveat to that is that the sheriff said that he talked to the family, and they don't want the video out. I can respect that. I can respect the fact that they don't want to show this death or whatever. However, the fact is that even if you're going to do that, the public has a right to know. And if the family did request that, then why is there a lawsuit filed by his brother? You would think that this individual would everybody see this videotape. I wonder, he's seen the videotape. He doesn't have possession of it. And 9 times out of 10, this will be handled out of court. And then, but they will, or once the pressure comes down on them, it will be handled by the court, and they're going to go to arbitration. There was a lady who gave birth in a jail, and her son died. They didn't get her medical attention. They had the baby in jail. The baby died. The arbitration amount was, she originally asked for $4 million. I think she got something like 476,000, something like that, or whatever. But anyway, just by mere admission going to arbitration, that suggests guilt, because they don't want to pay any more money for court, because they know they're going to lose in the long run. They're going to spend all this damn money on court. Then they got to still get retribution to the individual. It's more than they can afford, especially after the fact that the reason is we just settled a whistleblower complaint, which the individual got $150,000. I think he should have got more than that. But hey, who am I? A log of all persons entering or exiting the crime scene should be kept by a designated officer. An incident chronology is also recommended, which should include documentation of the arrival of the supervising officers, investigators, medical personnel, calls for service, and other critical issues. Okay. None of these were done. All we have is the phone call to 911. There was no documentation of how that actually happened on a time frame. Well, I guess maybe there is, because they actually put the time frame, but I question the amount of time frame. Here's the reason why, is because the fact is that he was dead at 11:26. The coroner even pronounced him dead at 11:26. But guess what? The booking report says 12:28. And Sheriff Selman even said it was a typo. It was handwritten. It's handwritten. Officers should attempt to collect the cell phones, all individuals or whatever, and that's par for the course. But interviewing witnesses at the scene, investigators should obtain statements from all witnesses as appropriate, including from any officers, detainees, emergency service personnel, and other responders at the scene, keeping in mind that the potential investigative targets, including law enforcement and prison personnel, cannot be compelled to incriminate themselves. These interviews are more detailed than those conducted by first responders. Discussed above, investigators should conduct interviews with all the personnel, including anybody, a witness who actually saw what was going on. What part did you see going on? This is using information to piece together the puzzle. We don't have all that information. We were not provided as a public this information. On a death of a person inside our county jail, do you think we wouldn't ask the question? Ask the question. So, in retrospect, I'm saying, you know what? If this is the game that Angelina County insists on playing, and we have evidence that they've done this by not doing their correct investigations or whatever. I mean, they fired an individual. He took it to court and he won. I think that should be a wake-up call to our commissioners and our representatives to say, hey, we got to follow the law here. We just can't make shit up as we go. So it should be all statements should be taken. Deadly force was used by an officer. Investigators should collect specific amount of officer involved, including his or her actions, available options, attempts to de-escalate any, if there were any. We don't see any of that. It's on the video. Experience, training, and nature of extent of any injuries. If or when emergency responses were called, the context of the encounter, the imminence of any threat, relative number of officers and other individuals present, opportunities for de-escalation, the presence of bystanders who may have been endangered by a subject. So, what is the first thing you do? I know this because rules of engagement. First thing you do is you try to de-escalate the situation. You de-escalate the situation by how? Well, before you kill somebody, okay, or before somebody dies in your custody. Deadly force is not authorized unless all lesser means have failed. Have you talked to the individual while he was in detox? Did you talk to the individual? Did you Try to de-escalate the situation, find out what his problem was, find out why he needed help, see if he could solve the problem. That way, multiple things could have been done. Now, here's where it gets ugly. When Mr. Small was the statement by Sheriff Selman does not include the fact is that when he was first taken in to the jail, he was placed in general population. We don't know what time he was placed into in population, but the fact is that they had to remove him because he was psychotic, and the other individuals in the pod with him, they took action like they're going to kick his ass because he was all over the place. So did they provide protective custody until this individual could be determined? Medical personnel could be determined or given proper medication. No, they just threw him in the freaking. They threw him in. Not only did they just throw him in jail, they threw him in gin pop, where he got his ass beat. Could that be the problem with cut on his head? Maybe so, but there's no mention of it. Okay. In particular, interviews should include the appropriate use or open-ended and targeted questioning, a lack of bias or leading questionings, appropriate follow-up, and appropriate time frames. If deadly force was used by an officer, should collect specifics about the officer involved, including his or her actions, available options, attempts to de-escalate, were called the context of the encounter, the imminence of threat, and the presence of any bystanders, which would encompass our trustees that were there. In this evening, I don't know if you've never been in jail, they come in, they give you a haircut like once a week. You go get your haircut if you want. You don't have to get a cut. But anyway, a lot of guys like to get their haircut and their beards cut. So it was stated in that room in the haircut, because they take everybody out who wants to get a haircut and they put them in the gym usually, and you sit there and you wait for the haircut people or whatever. So, unsupervised. Unsupervised, what I mean, well, there's nobody in the room. You got to be on camera. So, anyway, the individuals who were waiting there to get the haircut, one of the trustees who witnessed this incident came in, sat down, and told the other inmates, they're jacking somebody up. The question was asked, who? Inmates? What's selling? No. I said, no, man. The guards are beating the shit out of this guy. Right there, I should be part of the investigation. But see, no one was interviewed. And on the DPS report, every individual who was there at the scene was not deposed. The only person, once again, that actually has been deposed was Sheriff Selman, and he wasn't even there. Do you think maybe that Mr. Selman went in there and he looked at the situation and he's like, oh, well, this may look bad for us. We don't include this. We're not going to let you guys talk. Don't talk. We're not going to tell you. They'll come up with stories, maintain the story, but they haven't even released any information like that. Why? Because the fact is that there's going to be one of those individuals involved who will say, this was wrong. This was wrong. And if you don't give the opportunity for people to stand up and say they're wrong, to say this action was wrong, or explain to you what's actually going on in a statement, if you didn't oppose these individuals, then the report is bogus. The report is bogus. It doesn't mean anything. If deadly force was used by an officer, investigators should collect specifics. Okay, I already went over that, whatever. But anyway, they should actually attempt to de-escalate, experience, training, nature, and extent of injuries. If emergency responders were called, the context of the encounter, the imminence of the threats, the relative numbers, or whatever. So you have to look at the training schedule of these individuals. Was there some individuals there that weren't trained in restraints? Or was it on-the-job training? Was there individuals there that tried to de-escalate the situation, but they were voted down? What is the conversation between these officers? These officers, they have a right. They have the right to say what's going on. But their view or their statements will never be heard. So if this comes into play to where it goes south and this investigation runs its course, these individuals are going to be called to in federal court, not county court, not this bullshit we got going on here, in federal court. If this appears in federal court and these steps were not involved, then they will rule in favor of the people, because the investigation was not completed properly according to federal guidelines. So there's more on here. Evaluating the body. When we evaluated the body, we saw Mr. Smallwell. The coroner said he died by an accident, not an accidental overdose, not just an accident. He noticed there was bruising on his arms, his legs, and his cut head. Plus, CPR was administered, so they put that right there. Will put bruises on your chest. In some cases, if you apply CPR, some places that you might break a rib. But hey, breaking a rib to save somebody's life. I mean, I think that they would be like, "I break my rib if you have to." So we know part of these guidelines, and like I said, there's questions above. There's questions all about this death, and we are seeing more occurrences like this happening within our state, within the country, and law enforcement has had to make the decision: do we hide this information from the public? Angelina County said, yes. You don't need to know. We can determine what you see, what you can't see. Forget public information. But here's the caveat with that: is the fact is, if there's anything sneaky or shady about this investigation, that's a lawsuit. It's not only a lawsuit against the county, but also a lawsuit against DPS. Now, people say, well, you're a proponent of frivolous lawsuits or whatever. Okay. Well, then what good are our Bill of Rights if we can't sue to protect them? Think about that for a minute. Because here you're at a dilemma. Because the fact is, it's already been proven that these individuals are going to much length to take a whistleblower who they didn't want in there. Take the whistleblower who meets our requirements of engineer. They didn't like it. They didn't like it because he was doing an investigation on YouTube, because he was digging up stuff. Didn't like it. They fired him. This is Angelina County. Now, a recorded interview has to be taken with the officers suspecting and being involved in the death, and the custody or appropriate should be attempted. Research and best practices should suggest that such an interview should take place as soon as practical. Certain agencies have policies regarding the timing of such stages. So, everybody that's involved, were they recording? Did you get their statement on record so we can look back on them? So further investigations by the FBI, I don't know who else is going to pick it up. But you best believe that Internal Affairs is going to be involved in this actual report, because it wasn't done professionally. It hid things from the public intentionally, and we still don't know the truth of what all happened. If someone dies in a county jail where you're a resident of, you need to be damn sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, that you've done this per guidelines. Not just make shit up, or here's worse. Well, that's the way we always done it. That's the way we always done it. Yeah. It's not law enforcement. It's not law enforcement. And it's certainly not the way inmates or our county jail should act. So, timetables on related investigation. Strict timelines on criminal investigations are difficult to impose given the viability. So, in other words, Even if we wanted to do an investigation as a citizen, we've been denied because our sheriff says we don't need to see that. So in other words, he's guarding us from information that he deems that are too violent for us to show. Or okay, it's violent. We understand that. Put a warning on it. But you still are responsible from disclosing the actions that were taken, and actually, why did this guy die? Go back to the coroner's report. The coroner's report said died by accident. Didn't say accidental overdose. Didn't say he bumped his head on the wall. No, just accident. But this information is covered up. Then we have a review team. I don't think we had we did on the DPS report. We did have second signature was sent off by McClellan, and let's just put it this way: we already know McClellan's stance because he's the one who stood up in front instead of in Uvalde. Oh, they were doing their job. They get in their job. They false narrative, because it all came out on videotape and proved these were bullshit, which I suspect in this case right now, and I'm going to prove it. The reason why I think this is important to me is because a death of any individual, and I know this for a fact, a death of an individual that was in my squad or in my platoon or whatever, it didn't make no difference if it was in combat related, or if it was just by an accident. It didn't matter. These steps were taken. To actually be able to produce an interview, to produce a report. May not be 100% accurate, 95% accurate. And the people who were involved actually had their witness taken, actually had their statements. We didn't have that. We don't have that. We do have standard operating procedures. We do have the information showing who was on duty. We do have Sheriff Selman's statement. And we do have the silence of our commissioners, not even to address this issue. Now, this comes in heels of the fact is that we are preparing to do an extension on the jail. We're going to add 250 something beds. So my question is that if we can't tell what's going on in our jail, if you can't show us how a person died in the jail, how in the hell we know we can handle 250 more inmates? Because I'll guarantee you this right now, 250 more inmates, you're not getting any more guards. You'd be lucky to get enough guards to cover that. And in retrospect, this is the reason why we can't get people to stay working in the jail, because of this type of bullshit. When somebody is working there and you're employed there and you witness things like this, there are whistleblower complaints. You can't file a whistleblower. But the reason why we don't in Angelina County, because you will be gaslighted and you will be fired within the next 30 to 30 days because you came forward. They'll make up a reason. That's how bad it is in Angelina County. And I'm not saying Angelina County is the only one. We're seeing counties right now that actually are running to get these videos out, because the fact is they realize they sue us, we could be out in almost $5 million, especially for a death. If they go to trial, if they go to trial, you can bet your ass you're going to get $5 million for a death in a jail, for the family members, for the public. So we need to continue the process to make sure this doesn't happen again. We already know, okay? We already know that we've had 2 deaths in the jail that could have been prevented. One was because she had pneumonia. She had asked for help many times. They said she was faking it. She ended up dying en route to the hospital. Sheriff Stelman's statement was, wow, she died. She died at the hospital. No, she died because of the conditions in your jail. And she died because the reason is that these people she was asking for help refused to help her. There's no documentation of medical personnel looking at her. There's no documentation of any kind of analysis that were actually done to show that she was faking. Now we have Mr. Smallwood, and we're not even going to include the lawsuits that are happening, because now inmates are in that. They actually have access to a public library now on their computer, on a kiosk. They can actually look up their case and see what's the law, what is it. So they'll have a case. This is the only remedy that we have, is that in order for them to do the right thing and process documentation to be totally transparent with the public, they have to follow the established guidelines and laws. So we have the Attorney General of Texas says, well, this is before HR 30. Well, we can't, because it's retroactive. Bullshit. It's not retroactive if there's a death in custody. No, it's not retroactive. And we're going to have the federal government come in here and not teach them a lesson. I'm just saying that. I shouldn't say that. Maybe it's right. But to let them know that, look, who the hell you think you are, just doing shit, just making shit up and doing what you want to do? Because you've always done it that way. So, in conclusion, I hope that you guys will read this. I hope that you guys will ask them some questions. Ask them questions on why was this not followed or whatever. Meanwhile, I'm in the process of getting statements from these individuals. Who actually witnessed this and weren't talked to. Now, here's where they come back and say, well, you know what? They're going to say, well, these signatures are not valid because it's not notarized. Okay. Well, it is the duty of our jail to offer notary sources. So in other words, they can say, you know what? Every Friday, if you need something notarized, let us know. We'll get a list. And you know what? You go down and notarize your statement. A notarization does not say if it's right or wrong. Notarization is that the information that they read is true and accurate. That's it. They're not there to enforce right, wrong, indifferent. What the only thing that they're there to do is to make sure that signature is from the person who's signing it and the person who wrote it. I don't know where we got our notaries. I don't know where our county recorder's office acting attorney. What? You sure you want to represent yourself? You sure you got a right lawyer? You sure this? Shut up and record it. Stay in your lane. We don't. And any recorder or anybody in the recorder's office who actually goes in and starts telling you what you can't record. How many laws does that break? A person who's actually recording documents is not allowed to give any advice, to give anything except for this, to record it. So our county recorder's office are coming in there and determining what they want to, coming in there returning what they want to record, what they don't want to record, based on their personal opinion. Does that sound right to you? Well, that's what happens. And I witnessed it in person. The person was filing a civil lawsuit. He was working on documentation. He didn't receive copies, so he went back to the county recorder's office and said, I'm recording this. I didn't get notification. She said, well, who's your attorney? He said, I don't have an attorney. I'm representing myself. Well, we normally just provide it to the attorneys. Individual says, well, I am my own attorney. I'm pro se. I'm an attorney. She said, are you sure you want to do that? It's not a good idea. Are you sure you want to do that? I don't need your opinion. Stay in your lane. So this is just another issue that we have going on here in Angelina County. And, I, for one, number one, I'm tired of the bullshit. I'm tired of them saying it's black when it actually is white, or I'm saying it's white and they're saying it's black. And I'm tired of going to a commissioner's office who will not acknowledge the truth that they are responsible and that there are laws that they have to follow. So I want to know how much Smallwood does. Good, bad, and different. I want to know. And I'm a member of the public. Taxpayers should know. And here's the reason why. Because when they do a settlement, do you see how they do those settlements of Mr. Walker's case? In the settlement, they didn't want to comment. They didn't want to comment on the amount. Keith Wright came out and said, "Oh, I won't comment on it." It's in the paper the next freaking day. But you can't comment on it. So I'm taking these facts and all the reports that I have, and I'm going to go, and I'm going straight to the Attorney General of the United States. And I hope that I can get the FBI interested or actually start asking questions. Because the fact is, now we're getting ready to determine if Sheriff Selman can stay in office. With this kind of behavior and this kind of cover up, I believe that we don't want that and need that in Angelina County. Just because you've done it all the way, it's been a constable for, I don't know, 20 years or whatever. Just because you do it a certain way, you're a constable. Okay. Here's what sheriff's requirements are. Are you capable? I don't know. So this is all I got for today. Just found that information today. And like I said, I'm working on it every day because it just ain't right, man. Something's just not right. And I can't let it go, because the fact is that I don't care how nice they are to you, how mean they are to you, how many times they threaten to throw me in jail. I want to know the truth. And I have a right to know the truth based on the laws and stipulations by the state and also by the federal government. So we're going federal, guys, and we're going federal. Matter of fact, I'm typing up the rebuttal. I'm typing up further information to the Attorney General out of Texas. Bullshit. Screw Texas. I'm going out. I'm going to go federal with this, and then we'll see what happens. But at least it'll initiate an investigation to where we get it away from the good old boy network. You guys be good. Be careful. God bless you. I will speak to you later and keep you advised. Keep you advised of what's going on and how it's going on and all the games that we play. Just tell the truth, guys. Just tell the truth. All right. Hey, Steve. God bless y'all. Out. I know I got to get up there. Okay. Now I'm out.